I've just returned from a leadership summit in South Euclid, Ohio. A shout out to Pastor Courtney Jenkins for her vision, her leadership, and the way that she serves God in her church and in the wider church. And this week's episode is about public faith. I'm Rachael Keefe, and this is Monday's Muse. At the Leadership Summit, I heard a lot of great stuff that I will be processing over the next several weeks. But one of the things that was said early on in the weekend was that faith is a public matter. Now, if you're like me, you grew up with the two things you don't talk about. You don't talk about religion, and you don't talk about politics. And faith is a personal thing. Now, I've had my suspicions that we've had this wrong in the mainline church for a long time. But to hear someone else say it out loud, faith is a public matter. And I thought about that because while I was at this leadership retreat, many of my colleagues in the United Church of Christ and across denominations were returning from North Dakota, where they stood with water protectors, stood in solidarity, and it was considered a sacred matter. And as you know, we face one of the most contentious elections in U.S. history this week. Faith is definitely a public matter. We think about faith in the way that it fills us. We think about our personal relationship with God in Christ. But it's so much more than that. As the Church Universal is losing membership, part of that is because we have become too inwardly focused. And we have forgotten that to follow Jesus means being Jesus' hands, feet, voice, and heart in the world, making our beliefs public. It's not to the exclusion of other faith traditions. It's not what I'm saying at all. I once began a retreat at a Unitarian Universalist retreat center saying, I am unapologetically Christian. And that leaves you to be unapologetically whatever you are. And then we can meet where we share values and share trust in God. So whether you are Jewish or Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or Wiccan, or if you do not follow a faith tradition at all, and you still believe in God, you believe in divine benevolence, you believe in the positive spirit of the universe, whatever it is, if you believe in goodness by any name, it is time to live that faith out loud. At no point in U.S. history have we needed people with committed, active faith lives to live out loud. If what you feel called to do and you are attributing to God, if that action is not grounded in love, grounded in grace and mercy and compassion, it is not of God. And we need to rethink what we're doing. But in the meantime, the faithful of all stripes need to go to the polls and vote to let our voice be heard so that goodness and grace and mercy has a better chance of being seen and heard on our streets. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.